What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, coming to you with the latest and greatest Packers news, updates, and everything else from the Packers. And joining me today as always, is Jordan Chesky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. How about you?
Never better. Never better, Jordan. Happy to be podcasting again, talking about a team that's going to do so well next year and have all the most to look forward to, which is why we're looking back at this past year to make our misery just a little bit longer lasting. Just that tiny little bit for 2 more weeks.
Uh,
um,
uh,
if you guys are watching on YouTube, you saw uh, the headline on the headline title, or the title episode, that even work even better, of this episode is grading out the Packers offense. We're going to take a look at really all of the major playmakers on offense this week and grade them out. Basically, your school grades A through F. Spoiler alert, I didn't give him an F, even though maybe, selfishly, emotionally, one might have deserved it. But no. We're just going to go through and give grades to everybody, talk about a reason behind that, and go through all the playmakers. But first, a couple tidbits of news, only really one, truthfully. Aaron Wilson, NFL beat reporter, tweeted out, I think that was this morning. Yep, that does not seem like that was this morning. That Packers are expected to hire Cardinals cornerback coach Greg Williams. Not that Greg Williams. It's Greg with two total
One
G's.
G.
No, two total G's.
Oh,
Not
yes.
three.
Yeah.
Not
Not
Bounty
triple
Gate Greg
G.
Williams. New Greg Williams. Who was the as I said was the cornerbacks coach for the Cardinals. Last year he replaces Jerry Gray, who left for Atlanta last week. So Cardinals were okay in coverage. They were 21st in the league in their coverage grade on PFF. Um, their defense just wasn't overall that good this year, anyways. I think it's might have been a down year for them in general, but we'll see. They were 4-13, so they definitely had. They gave up the third most points in the league this year, which isn't great. Hopefully, that's a symptom of their players and not their coaches.
I would hope so. I mean, yeah. It'll be we'll do a deep dive. We'll do a deep dive on what Greg Williams brings to the table. But yeah. Someone to fill in Jerry Gray's shoes. Greg Williams, no triple G.
Just double G.
Yeah, it's a February coaching
Yeah,
move.
that's really all it is. So, before the Cardinals, he was a um, assistant secondary coach for the Chargers as well as the Colts, and we'll see how it goes in the future, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, should we get right to grades? Because I really don't feel like we need to talk about the other ancillary fringe Packers news this week.
I don't think there was any ancillary fringe Packer news.
I don't think
Yeah.
there was either.
So let's break out the red pens.
Um, so do you want to start with quarterback, or do you want to start with anywhere else? I feel like we could start or end with quarterback since it's Rodgers. We talked about him all season long. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, let's start somewhere else. I think that might be a good capper. Spend a couple days in the darkness, have emerged
Right.
fully transformed. Have a couple slots for food.
Let's start with Aaron Jones. I'm gonna let you go first
Oh,
because I have a unique grade, and I want to let you get your bit out before I give my spiel.
my grade, Aaron Jones, A minus.
Interesting. You want to go
I
into it?
think
Yeah, go into it.
productive season. Certainly not his best, but over 1,000 yards. I think the biggest knock on Jones, outside of the literal knock that he had by the end of the season, was just the inability to consistently get him the ball weeks 3 through 7,
Hmm.
8. And I'm probably even shortchanging a couple games there too. So yeah, I it could have been a better season for Aaron Jones had he been used more, and I think the Packers' fortunes probably would have changed too, if that was the case. But A minus, that's where I'm going.
Okay. So I gave him a B plus plus. That's the only time I gave like one of these weird grades for a player. But I gave him a B plus plus because I couldn't give him an A minus
Oh.
comfortably in my brain because of the up and down season he had, which was in part um because of the coaching and just how they decided to use him throughout the season, where sometimes they would just not use him and
Yes.
sometimes they lean on him, which isn't his fault, but at the same time he's had better years, right? He's had better years where he deserved an A minus or deserved an A plus um for his season, and I just don't think that season for him eclipsed that mark for me. It's really kind of that simple. Even though I think he was the best player on um on the team this year, regardless, because or on offense at least,
Yeah.
because he just was that important to
And
any sort of
team.
their success. Yeah, you could say team. I don't think you'd be wrong in saying team. I think the argument's definitely there. I just I think he might be the highest graded player we have this over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That yeah, but it's just between the
What is the best player on a 8 and 9 team?
right, exactly.
Yeah. As that's not. Don't get me wrong. That's not.
That's not a diss at Aaron Jones. It's just
No,
a
no.
matter. It's a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's more of we're debating best players on an 8 and 9 team that didn't make the playoffs. That's kind of thing.
Right. Like he's had it doesn't feel like it's right, but apparently it's numbers never lie. This is the most yards he's had in a season rushing. And
What?
according to
As a Packer?
well, he only played for the Packers. He had
I reiterate.
500, 700, 1084,
What?
1104, 800, and 1121. A lot of it probably is because the passes backwards count as runs. So when he got like a pass out in the flat that was behind the line of scrimmage, or was a backwards pass, that's probably counting towards these rushing yards.
I get. Yeah, that's kind of
Because
shocking.
I don't think I would be hard pressed to believe he actually had 1100 yards handing the ball off.
Also, I thought he had 799 last year, and that
Yes.
also just seems kind of faulty to me. I don't know why.
Right.
But
Well
yeah.
then,
Anyway,
but then receiving yards, he only had 400, which like that's definitely wrong, right? Because
and Devontae Adams. You
right.
know,
And so, although he had like 400 this year and last year, and I feel like he had a lot more of those outside passes that were just thrown behind him or behind. It was a backwards
yeah,
pass essentially, and that just counts as a run because it's a quote unquote pitch.
yeah.
So I think that's just that number lies a little bit. So um, he's had more total yards from scrimmage in other years. He 2019 was um his biggest year. He had 1558 for total yards from scrimmage and 19 touchdowns. 1516 for total yards from scrimmage this year, but only 7 touchdowns, which I think is a big difference in how he was utilized this year.
Yep.
AJ Dillon was a bigger part of the offense in the 1 yard like goal to
Mhm.
goal type of touchdown scoring scenarios. But if he's not, then Aaron Jones just didn't. He went down touchdowns. That's all there is to it. um, yeah, best player. He's the highest grade I have. Um, for this, give it adding the extra plus because I think he's above as a player than the other B pluses I gave out. Um, so we'll look at those in a minute. Should we move on to AJ Dillon, his counterpart?
Yes. Mayor of Quad Cities, Iowa.
Quadzilla, if you might may. Insert with the video editor, insert the Godzilla noise right there when I say Quadzilla. Appreciate it. Um, AJ Dillon, C plus is what I gave him.
Mm.
I think he had again a good year, but his was extremely up and down. Like it, there was times where he didn't look like an NFL running back, and there was times he looked like he'd be just fine taking over for Aaron Jones. Should Aaron Jones be a cap casualty this offseason?
I went B minus.
Hmm.
I think he saved his season a lot the last couple of weeks, especially when the Packers were making their run.
Right.
Um, I don't know how much to ding him for this specifically because I think it also bleeds into Aaron Jones and by and large the if we so choose to grade the Packers coaches, but that I think that's too inside.
I
Um,
agree.
it just didn't work out with the two running back personnel as much as
That.
they tried, and I think it hurt Dylan more than Jones.
Hmm.
And yeah, like it's hard. It's you kind of have to factor in the role that he has, which is you're right that he had a lot more goal line touches. He would the series going series to series between Jones and Dylan. Obviously, it's consistent from how the last few years have been, but like I felt like there was a legitimate chance going into this year that both running backs would have over 1,000 yards.
Rushing.
And
Like 1,000 yards
yeah,
rushing. Yeah.
rushing. And obviously, Dylan didn't miss a game, did he? No.
No.
Um, for whatever reason, I think opposing teams just know they're going to load up the box.
Yep.
I think, again, I think in a smaller scale to Jones, I think the Packers coaching staff didn't really do him any favors to kind of disguise things with him because
Hmm.
I don't have any steps to back this up, but I would imagine a lot of the times that he's on the field, they're putting out run packages or stuff like that that doesn't really disguise. Hey, we're gonna give the ball to someone else that not a running back on the field
Right.
right now.
Right. No, I agree. And I think it's worth noting that like the biggest draw to AJ Dillon is his like just ability to break tackles. That's kind of like he's a power runner.
Yeah,
According to PFF, after contact, for yeah, Aaron Jones had 214 rushing attempts and AJ Dillon had 185. And of those um, rushes, yards after contact, a well, Aaron Jones had about 150 more and averaged about zero point 0.3 more yards after contact
yeah,
than AJ Dillon did, which is interesting. I think that might be more of Jones's elusiveness than AJ Dillon's lack of being able to break tackles. But when your biggest plus as a runner is the ability to break tackles late in game and break off those big runs, then
yeah,
it needs to be better. I don't know.
yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah,
And just in general, I think just the up and down season for me hurt his grade. I think like that's the difference between you and me because you gave him a B minus, right?
yeah. I was
I,
probably a little more forgiving.
I was a little more harsh in his up and down season because like there were
Yeah,
weeks like they just needed to have him get going and he just couldn't. So, um, worth noting too that Jones had double the um, breakaway rushing attempts where he had rushes bigger than 15 yards. So Jones had 12, Dillon had 6. And I think that's just a talent thing. I'm not really too concerned about that, but it is what it is. Should we do. Oh, no Patrick Taylor. Not enough info on Patrick Taylor to do anything on him. Same thing with Kylan Hill, who really only had one snap. So,
that's right. Bon
um,
voyage, Kylan.
bon voyage. Should we move right on along to the receivers?
Let's do it. Yes.
Do you want to start with old or start with young?
Let's go mix and match.
Mix and match. Just start in the middle.
Yeah.
Alan Lazard, he's right in the middle.
Alan Lazard, you got a B? I literally wrote a question mark
You
next
a
to him.
B question mark for you.
B question mark,
I gave him a B minus.
which I think I'm gonna go. I'm changing it to B minus. That's what I'm gonna give.
So we're in agreement.
Yeah.
I've been ad nauseum. I've spoken ad nauseum about Alan Lazard. I don't think I need to go into it too much. Inopportune drops were the biggest thing for Alan Lazard, like killing momentum with a bad drop that would get a first down. Like he was really good at getting first downs this year. Like that was his bread and butter of his usefulness. But at the same time, he had just way too many for me to just forgive it because I noticed it way too often. And if at that point you're noticing it, then it's a problem. PFF only gives him 4 drops. I think that's way, way, way deflated. Like I
Hmm.
think that's a little generous in how they grade drops, and if a defender has like their hand in there or if they get barely get a finger on it, then it's not a drop. But he had plenty of times where the ball hit him in the hands and it just went right to the ground.
Yeah. I again, my context of Lazard is very driven by not a number one wide receiver being asked to play as a number one wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
Because by and large, I mean, it was a very productive year for him.
Right.
And like, I don't think we learned anything new about him necessarily. I think he just kind of, I don't know, it's so like, it's hard to be underwhelmed by what you expected
Right.
because everyone and their mom knew that Alan Lazard was not going to be productive.
Gotta go talk to some moms
Or
apparently. See if they
yeah,
what their thoughts are on Al Lazard.
all those Packer moms. I completely lost my point.
Everyone
God, this is
and their mom knew
so.
what they were getting with Al
I
Lazard
don't
this
know
year.
why I said that or why I said it the way it did. Um, yeah, it's like we kind of knew that like you're asking Alan Lazard to play a role that he's not. Or
What we now know he's not cut out for.
yeah,
We were hoping he'd make the jump and he didn't.
yeah, and I don't know. It was still a good year. It's just like
I think
I
he had a
don't know
fine
how to
year.
like. Yeah,
Yeah, I think he had a fine
he's
year.
such a very good run blocker too. Like he
That's
get
probably his second most important asset as a receiver.
yeah.
Like obviously catching the ball is the first one, but his run blocking ability is really up there to be possibly even more important than his pass catching ability on this iteration of this team with Christian Watson and now Romeo Dobbs moving forward. Um, Al Lazard had the most yards he's ever had, which makes sense given he was the new target for Aaron Rodgers. 60 catches on 100 targets this year. 788 yards, 6 touchdowns. So he had more yards, but fewer touchdowns than he did last year. 513 and 8 for context. And his drop percentage dropped. He went 40 of 60 last year to 60 of 100 this year. I think
Ooh.
that
Yeah,
is
that's pretty damning.
yeah. I don't think like obviously there's not 20 new drops in there. I think that's not a combination of getting the number one assignment probably for the
Yeah.
first 9 weeks of the season before Christian Watson
Until
broke out.
even then, probably like what week 12 because
Yeah,
you give it a couple games after he starts scoring touchdowns and stuff like
right.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, he
Oof.
just wasn't. He like it's hard to go from playing opposite of Devontae Adams to then not playing opposite of Devontae Adams. And I think it was quite apparent given that his route running wasn't the best. Like I talked about that at length. Um, so yeah, just overall, a B minus. Not he was above average, just not.
Alan Lazard.
Yeah, he's Al Lazard. Um, mix it up to go. We'll go young next. Romeo Dobbs. I'm curious to see what you have because I think I am more harsh than I needed to be.
See.
I gave him a C plus.
Mm,
You said you gave him a C.
hmm.
So yeah, I think we might have the same line of thinking in that he started the year really well,
Yes.
but then once he got hurt, he kind of fell off a cliff. Like he really ran into that rookie wall at full speed and hit it hard.
Yeah, let me look. I'm looking at the stats right now. 67 targets, 42 receptions, 425 yards, three
Yeah,
touchdowns. Um, a carry for 11 yards. I'll just get those in there
yeah.
too. Um, yeah,
I don't think like that.
I think we're not to tip my hand here. I think we'll get into this with Watson a little bit too. But we're really talking about a third of the season at best with Dobbs.
Right, exactly. There wasn't really a extended like period of time he was playing that we really got a chance to see what he's capable of with the full arsenal of wide receivers, which is the biggest thing, right? That's why we wanted to see what Christian Watson um, could do once everyone was healthy at the end of the year. That's why he made his rookie of the year push. And I think that that really hurt Romeo Dobbs in the early part of the year when Christian Watson couldn't stay healthy, when Alan Lazard was missed week one. I think it's tough. It's tough as a rookie receiver to not have that full arsenal of weapons to help offset who's covering you. Because for a minute there, Romeo Dobbs was getting like one or two coverage assignments from cornerbacks because they didn't have anybody else. Like you weren't gonna throw the one on Sammy Watkins. And when Alan Lazar was out, wasn't gonna throw it on Randall Cobb or anybody. So it was just a tough matchup for him. And then once he got hurt in the Lions game, that really stunted his season. Um,
Yes, of course.
Came back against the Bears, I believe, or shortly there, or the next game, I think, the
Rams.
Rams.
It was after the bye week.
Right. So then the last 5 games of the season, right? So
Yeah.
5, 6. It's tough to get back in the swing of things, being off a month and then not getting those targets because despite having a bunch of average targets, Romeo Dobbs just wasn't amongst those towards the end of the season. There was Christian Watson, Alan Lazard, Aaron Jones out of the backfield, AJ Dillon out of the backfield, Bobby Tunyon. Like it's just he's he got cut out essentially after being
Yeah.
rusty was more or less how I'd put it.
Yeah. I yeah, it's no fault of his own. His most productive part of the season was when the offense wasn't even clicking by any means too.
Right.
So yeah.
Exactly. That's not to say I'm not
More
excited.
more room to grow, of course.
Right. That's not to say I'm not excited for him as a receiver moving forward. I think that's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. So, we'll go back to old. Go back to olds. Um,
Oh,
Randall Cobb. I gave him a
I
C plus.
gave him a C.
I want to hear your reasoning for giving him and Roman Dobbs the same grade.
Injury.
Hmm.
What did I even say? No, Cobb came out or came back earlier.
They were both injured though. Roman,
They
they,
were
bo-
both
they
injured.
both played the same amount of games.
Let's break out the stats here too. 50 targets, 34 catches, 417 yards, a touchdown.
Similar
I
stats.
just similar stats, obviously different level of expectations.
Hmm.
Um,
I think that's where my grade comes in. I'll let you finish, but I think that's where my grade is
yeah,
rooted in.
probably. I don't know. It's been hard to really assess the Cobb reunion outside of it just kind of being what Aaron wanted. So maybe I'm a little bit more cynical
Yeah.
about what it is.
Yeah, I think knowing the expectations from Romer Dobbs were almost non-existent to like begin training camp before future Hall of Famer Romeo Dobbs became a thing, to the
Yeah.
point of Randall Cobb being the veteran in the locker room that Rodgers could lean on should things get bad. I think that's just what Randall Cobb was. And it's hard to say that I wish he had more of an impact in the game because he is 32 years old, 33 years old, and it's hard for him to break out when he's just not the guy he used to be
Yeah.
throughout the middle of the 2010s. But I still think he did well enough. I just don't think that he had the production to really um, warrant anything above like a C plus. Again, that's why that plus is there, honestly,
Yeah.
because he's as close to that BA range that I want to give him, given his um his lack of productivity essentially.
Yeah.
Because in general receiving grades, he was the fourth best according to PFF. But of those, third best. Patrick Taylor second, but he only had like 5 snaps or 1 snap as a receiver. So third best, but he had the fewest amount of yards by 200. He's second or third behind Christian Watson who had 611, and then Al Lazard obviously had 788. So I just don't think he had the production enough to get up towards that B range, which is again why Romeo Dobbs got the same grade he did.
Yeah.
I think it's really just that simple. But he was. I really hope like if the Rodgers stuff clears up and either doesn't come back or retires or whatever, I would like Randall Cobb back just to have that presence and like stability as a slot receiver from Randall Cobb for Jordan Love. Like I think
He's still
he still has value.
he's still under contract, obviously for this coming season,
Is he?
right?
I will look it up.
I could be wrong.
He might be. I'm going. Um, he is. He has a no. I think he's technically a free agent.
Oh, he's free agent now.
Yeah, because he restructured his deal. I think
That is right.
this
Yes.
past season. So he's on the books for the Packers, but I think he's actually a free agent. If I understand all of those things correctly. Which, spoiler alert, I just might not. I'm not a cap expert. Nobody, please, nobody accuse me of being a cap expert. But
Pack
yeah,
rat.
on Spotrac 2023 unrestricted free agent. So yeah,
Mm.
um, I'd like to bring him back for like a veteran minimum, like the same number he signed with the last 2 years of the Packers. 2021 he signed $1 million.
One
Or for a
million
base
dollars.
salary, and then got a signing bonus to I think this total was like 5 million that year. But then 2 million this past year. So something again just similar to play. That's really to see Marseilles Lewis, which we'll talk about in a minute. Come back if they want to come back. We'll stay with the olds and go with Sammy Watkins.
F.
I didn't give him an F. I gave him a D.
I gave him or incomplete.
You gave him an incomplete,
No. Um.
which we should. I don't know if I think we said it already. Not giving grades to players who we don't have sufficient
Yes.
enough evidence on. Like we won't have a Samari Toure grade because he didn't get enough work to really warrant a grade.
Yeah. Or DD Westbrook grade.
I forgot that happened. God.
Yeah. I
Did you give
mean,
an
when
F?
you get released during the season,
Yeah.
I know he had a good. His one game to fame was the Bears game,
Yep.
and then it was just kind of like Sammy Watkins is here.
Sammy Watkins is here. He was out there getting some cardio. And
Yeah.
so I'm not like too concerned. I gave him a D. I think that says enough. I think F is like really warranted. Like an F would be abysmal, right? That's Amari Rogers on punt returns is an F. Like that's what I think of when I think of an F. Just
I forgot that we could have graded him.
not as a receiver. He only had 8 targets as a receiver for the Packers. He had touchdown with the
Uh,
Texans. So, but that's the idea, right? Is that that's an abysmal performance. That's F worthy. Sammy Watkins 13 catches on 22 targets for 200 yards. Like, it's not good, but he helped them win that Bears game, and I think that's enough to get him out of that F range for me.
Oh.
Even though a D is not good.
Anybody could have helped win that Bears game.
I mean, they almost lost it. They only
It's
that
true.
that fourth quarter
Yeah.
was tight.
Justin Fields ran all over them, and David
Exactly,
Montgomery.
exactly. And Khalil Herbert.
Yes, yeah, because
Yeah,
they both got over 100 yards that game.
yeah.
I was like,
So
what the
like
hell
again,
is going on?
it wasn't a surefire thing. They needed his production that game. So that's just where I had him. That's really all there is to say about it.
Yeah.
Um, so long, farewell. Auf Wiedersehen, adieu. That's for last. Christian Watson,
B minus.
B plus.
Oh,
Yep, I think
okay. I want you to explain yours first.
I gave him a B plus because when he was healthy, he was a positively impactful player. And once they actually used him as a effing wide receiver and not a running back or a gadget tool player, he did really well. Like I'm not knocking him as a rookie. Like I'm knocking Aaron Jones as a 5 year veteran for how the coaches used him
Yeah.
because he should be able to speak up and have that conversation and be like, hey, you guys are using me
Stop
wrong.
being
Stop
dumbasses.
being dumbasses and use me properly. Christian Watson is part of his allure as a prospect and a receiver and a football player is his speed. So I see why Matt LaFleur would want to use him in like jet sweeps and gadget running plays like that. Like I got the idea. The process made sense. The results didn't for how long they stuck with it. But once they were forced to throw the ball to him when Randall Cobb and Christian Watson or and Romeo Dobbs were hurt and they had to throw him the ball, weird what happens. And so that the second half of the
You
season, he
mean using a wide receiver like a wide receiver pays off immediate dividends?
you'd be shocked, Jordan. What if I got some news for you? Um, and I just think that he's a rookie, right? Like he's that first catch and or reception or holy moly, that first target and drop in the Minnesota Vikings game really hurts, right? And I think that kind of like lessened his targets through that's the beginning part of that season until the Cowboys game. I think, and we've talked about this again so many times, the trajectory of his season changes vastly if he catches that ball. And
Packers season,
I think the Packers season, maybe.
Rodgers season.
I I don't want to put that much conjecture into it because they still sucked, right? Should they sucked? They're average 8 and 9. But you get what I'm saying, right? I don't
By
think
Packer standards.
I'm not going to sit here and put all of the downfalls and the pitfalls of the Packers season on Christian Watson dropping that ball. I think that
Yep.
is unfair to do to him because he proved that he can do it. It was a drop. It was one of the most untimely drops of the season without a doubt. But I don't think that play kicks their season off to go 13-4 or 12-5 or some sort of really positive season because all the underlying issues that plagued the Packers season would have still arisen regardless of if he catches that ball. We win one more game probably, which would have made the playoffs, but we still would have had not good results for 5 straight games this season.
I think I'm with you to a point because it ultimately we go on this, and it wasn't just because of how he was used, because he did get hurt and missed a couple games, but with how much trust in his wide receivers was a big talking point going into the year. To have your first offensive play
Mm-hmm.
be a drop for Watson, um, it just kind of, not to go full narrative kind of thing, all that stuff, because it's not just about the narrative, but it did fuel this thing of like they just don't have the requisite wide receivers to really have a solid passing attack. Um,
Right.
and not to go full Bill Simmons, uh, but it is like a sliding doors moment for this season.
Maybe.
Because I don't think we would feel, even with how it could be as it could have easily just been one game, as you mentioned. It could have been one more win and they make the playoffs. I think we would feel better about the season if that was the case because of just how much it meant by the end to make the playoffs.
I guess.
Even though I
I
would say don't use that logic because
right.
you're still a 500 team.
I think you see my point of view and I see your point of view.
Mhm.
Like I think we are in agreement. Our 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 Christian Watson Venn diagram is pretty solid. Like they're almost overlapping, but just not quite. It's almost a circle. We have a lot of similar agreements, but the couple of things we disagree on ultimately change our grades. So I had a B plus, you had a B or B minus, right?
B minus.
So yeah.
B minus. Full if you want the full stats,
For
Watson.
yeah, go ahead.
41 catches, 66 targets, 611 yards, passing yards, seven receiving touchdowns, seven attempts for 80 yards on the ground, two touchdowns. Christian Watson.
Also only 14 games. And like that 14 games is like quote unquote inflated because he got hurt early in games, a couple games with
Yeah.
concussions and the like. So um just the weird coincidence that as the wide receiver two, he had the same amount of targets as Alan Lazard did last year. Not same amount, but the same like ratio. Alan Lazard was 40 to 60 last year
Oh, that's
and
right. Yeah.
was 40 to 60 last year, and Watson was 41 to 65. So probably just coincidence, but maybe that's something to expect going forward for the wide receiver two to have about that many targets.
Yeah.
Not that it matters, but um, sprinkle in tight ends since we're on the receivers.
Little sprinkle.
Little sprinkle, little salt bay.
Yeah.
Um, start with Josiah DeGuara. Get him out of the way. Did you grade him or not?
I did grade him. It sounded
Okay.
like you were very dismissive. Let's get it out of the way.
Well, I
I
don't have a
said
lot
D.
to say.
Yeah, D plus.
C minus.
Yeah.
He had one pass late in the season that made me get excited. So
Yeah, there
that
was definitely a post game that were like, "Hey, are they going to use him more?" It's
hey.
like,
um, and I think it just was like a big part of it for Josiah DeGuara is of the opportunities he had, he did well. 13 catches on 15 targets and 114 yards. Like that's not bad
yeah,
on hard yards on 13 catches. That's not bad. To be honest, when most of his targets are going to be um short. His average depth of target was 3 yards. So um really giving him this the C minus grade because we've been hoping he'd be taking a step forward to become a really useful receiving tight end and be better in the blocking game. Like his pass blocking is was poor, as poorly graded on PFF, and I just think it's got to come soon for him, right? I think it just has for him to be useful and not be possibly cut next year in training camp. I think it just has he has to make a pretty significant jump next year in training camp to not just be a cut because
especially when
they're probably going to draft one.
yes, tight ends might be a very. I mean, who knows? That could be their first round pick. So
Maybe.
it's a high. Needless to say, it's a high priority
Yeah, I
to
think
address.
he had a down year compared to last year too. Like last year he went 25 of 33, 250 yards and two touchdowns. I think just losing Devonte Adams really hurt this offense so much more than we even thought it would because
Yeah,
we thought it would be, but I think it was just that much more.
yeah.
The team becoming sort of a hopeful run first offense probably didn't do too much either. But I think that's just where he lost a lot of his value is just not being able to find those targets. Like they spread the ball around a lot in the season, and that kind of hurt him in his production availability for the season. But he played all 17 games. Just tough.
Yeah.
Let's do Bobby. Bobby Tunyon.
Bobby Tunyon had a lot more catches than I thought he would have. I
Yeah,
know I
he
we
had
didn't,
he came on late in the year,
yeah.
but he still had more catches than I really, excuse me, than I thought he would this year. He had more catches than Christian Watson, which I did not think he would. You want to
Um,
give your grade?
yeah, sorry. 50,
You're good.
53 catches for 470 passing yards, 2 touchdowns,
Yep.
67 targets.
I gave him a B minus.
B minus, C plus.
Same area. I guess what dropped him down to a C for you?
Um,
I think I might know, but I'm curious. Was it general production, availability, not being
I don't
used?
think availability. I thought he had that outlier year where he scored how many touches? Was it like 13?
11. That was 20.
11.
That was 2020.
Obviously gets hurt last year,
Mhm.
2021. I just kind of thought they would have, by and large, this is probably more speaks to their red zone offense, more in general than just Robbie Tunyon. Robbie Tunyon.
I was gonna say you just call him Robbie Tunyon.
Um, yeah, just I don't know. I
Just
there's something
vibes.
like it
You
was a
you can
good
say just
season.
vibes.
Yeah, it was just like a good season, but there was just something. There wasn't as much substance as I would have liked.
I think
I
that's
need that
fair.
oomph.
I would have liked him to see. I would have liked to see him progress off the 2020 year compared to last year. 2020, obviously the touchdowns were inflated. He kind of had like the Jamal Williams of years that year. Like the weird Jamal Williams had this year where he scored all those touchdowns because he was a tank within 1 yard of the touchdown or of the end zone. I think it's the same thing like that Bobby Tunyon did. He just was getting a lot of those targets when MVS and Devontae Adams were getting a lot of attention of the secondary. So we'll see what he brings next year. I'm a big proponent of the year after the injury. So like he got hurt in 2021,
Yeah,
had a down year this year. I think he
you
makes
need a
I think he makes a bigger impact next year, whether that's with the Packers or somebody else.
especially for a skill player like that.
Hmm.
It's not just oh yeah, you're back. We're gonna expect you to be
Exactly.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think he is still an asset. He still is a great third option. And like if you like, that's kind of how I think of offenses. You have two wide receivers, and your first tight end in a modern NFL offense should be the better pass catcher than your third wide receiver.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but if you like a bad tight end, you just don't follow that rule. But if you have a decent tight end, I think that should be the hierarchy of pass catchers that aren't running backs. And I think he still has a chance to do that. Mercedes Lewis, big dog, big dog.
You have my bit of constantly opening my notebook and being like, I went C.
C. I think you and I might have graded him differently on different things. I give him a B plus.
B plus.
Mm-hmm. And that is almost
I thought I was a
entirely
little bit more friendly about it.
that was almost entirely because of his blocking.
Yeah.
Because like that's where his value is as a tight end, and um, it was really really good.
Yeah.
Mercedes Lewis amongst blockers. I gotta pull up the PFF grades because I was laughing when I saw this. Um, amongst for pass blocking grades, Dave Bakhtiari is 1 at 87. Really good. Mercedes Lewis was 72.9. He is ahead of both uh, Elton Jenkins and Royce Newman in pass blocking grade. Yeah,
Whoa.
yeah, yeah. So I
Mercedes Lewis, would you like to be an offensive lineman? We might need your services next year.
so he didn't like do a whole lot in the passing game this year because like that's just not where his usefulness is. So I didn't feel comfortable
Yeah.
grading him on 6 catches on 7 targets and 2 touchdowns and 66 yards. Like I just don't think that's where you can appropriately grade Mercedes Lewis. And so I looked at his blocking, and it was really good. And we already knew he was really important in the pass blocking and the run blocking game, for that matter. And that's where I came to B plus. I think he was as good as Christian Watson was catching the ball, but blocking and helping the offense succeed in other ways that wasn't him catching the ball.
Yeah.
Like even his run blocking grade was 66.6, which is, believe it or not, ahead of a few a few linemen. Like Royce Newman
Oh,
is down there
I
in the
can't wait to
in the
get to the live in
50s.
portion of our grading.
Yeah, it's not. um, you gave him a C,
Yeah.
just a C, a regular old C.
Yeah, I mean, you make it a better, more compelling point of just the value that he brings as a run blocker was very necessary for this team to actually have a competent offense.
Are
Um,
you gonna bring is Mercedes Lewis bringing his paper back to you, the teacher, saying I think I deserve a better grade for X Y Z, and are you gonna change it?
yeah, I can change it.
You don't have to.
No, I'm going to.
You're the teacher, Jordan.
Well,
You can take out
teachers,
the red pen and figure out how you want to change it.
sometimes teachers make mistakes. Mercedes Lewis, you get a B minus.
I think that's fair. Like,
Yep.
because I was the same boat as
We'll
you.
always have that Dolphins game too. That
Always have the
was
Dolphins game.
amazing.
That was very amazing. Um, that's it for tight ends. Why don't we move right into offensive linemen? Because we can also give a receiving grade for David Bakhtiari. He had one target this year. Remember? Remember that one target that was god awful?
Talk about a moment that
God,
could easily sliding doors. Bill Simmons. Um,
I give him an A minus.
A minus.
Yep. He was my highest graded. I think I still think Aaron Jones was the most important and best player on the team, but I think David Bakhtiari deserves an A minus given the injury he came off of and the long drought he had, and was still a fantastic left tackle. Still an all pro left tackle, even though I don't think he made that team. I don't think they announced that yet, though.
No, I don't think they announced until after.
Yeah.
I also went A minus, so I'm
Um,
right there with you.
yeah. 12th best left tackle according to offensive grade on PFF. Um, pass blocking, he's right up there at I think it's the sixth best, and then run blocking wasn't as good, but his value really is obviously pass blocking for Aaron Rodgers. So I think my grade comes in large part taking into context what he came from.
Yeah,
Missed all of 2 years ago. Now I gotta think
yeah. It was
because he missed all of.
going into the championship, the Buccaneers championship game,
He got hurt. He got hurt in that game, right?
the playoffs.
Yeah,
So
he got
you
hurt. He got hurt in the 2020 NFC Championship game.
practice.
Okay.
Was that before? Who did they play before the Buccaneer game? Why can't I think of this?
Yep, that's who they are. I gotta look it up now. It's gonna bother me.
God,
Wasn't the 49ers because didn't
no.
exercise that demon. Uh, uh I want to say the Giants, but I think that's wrong too. Because they did because that other Giants game was like
Cowboys?
maybe
No.
extreme maybe the
Oh my
Rams.
God.
The Rams.
Rams, duh.
The Rams.
Everybody's just like, what? It's the Rams, you idiots. It's the
Yell,
Rams.
yelling at us.
Um, yeah, got injured either before that game or before the Buccaneers game, but it was during practice. It wasn't during a game because that was a big,
I
big
think I
thing.
do remember that now.
Yeah. So he missed all of a football season after that, plus the championship game, plus what, 3 games this
So
year?
yeah, so he missed. He played 12 games in 2020, but I think you're right in how he played. I'm trying to find a game log for that year, just so I know for certain. It's gonna be really annoying, isn't it? Probably. Um, but then he missed all of except the last game of the season last year. He didn't play weeks 1 through 17. Played week 18 um against the Lions, and then missed the Niners game, and then missed the first few games this year. To give context to 2020, he got hurt the second to last week of the season against the Titans,
Mm,
and then was put on IR for the Bears, and then missed the playoffs.
yes.
So he
Okay.
missed a very long time, and to
Yeah.
come back and still be that high level left tackle pass, like franchise level left tackle, A minus. Like that's just all you really could to do. I think the only like reason I didn't give him an A or A plus is just that his run blocking wasn't graded as well as I would have liked to see it. It's hard. Like obviously PFF grades don't mean everything, but I think they mean enough.
Yeah.
I guess we just go down the line here. Not the line literally, just the line and how I have them listed in my notes here. Elton Jenkins. What'd you give
A
him?
minus.
You give him an A minus.
Yeah.
Give him a B.
Mm,
There were some egregious happenings during the season where I was just like, what is EJ doing? I think that is me being too harsh on him. Like I can fully just admit that because he bounced around so much on the line. He played 621 snaps at left guard and 339 at right tackle. Like it's tough when you have to
yeah.
go from one side of the line to the other, nonetheless two different positions. Like your foot movement as a guard versus a tackle is different. In general, again, never mind the fact that you're switching sides of the line you're protecting. Um I just like I think he's good. He definitely earned the contract that he got. I just wish that he had a full year just at guard.
Yeah.
Like I think if he has a full year at guard, he gets less of a knockdown from me on some of the mishaps he had. Um, but he allowed 17 pressures and gave up 3 sacks this year, as opposed to Bakhtiari, who gave up 0 sacks. Like that's the difference for me in the A grade versus the B grade. Is just 3 sacks and 17 pressures is a lot.
It's a lot, but I don't know.
I get it. Like I think I'm
Yeah,
harsh.
yeah. Also had shorter recovery time from his ACL tear.
Yep.
Like if, not just compared to Bakhtiari, but I
Mm,
think that's based on how we enter the season, like they're in the same boat because they're both coming back injured and we don't know necessarily when they're coming back.
right.
Missed a game even after coming back too. I think that was the Bills game. Yeah, not his best season.
No,
Uh,
I still
still missing a
he was a Pro Bowler.
Pro
I think
Bowler.
a reserve was is technically how that happened.
Yeah, that's
Somebody
right.
got hurt.
Um, yeah, I thought it was a solid, maybe A minus is a little high, but
That's fine.
I thought,
I see the vision.
yeah, I thought too. Again, I might be a little bit more forgiving of being cast in a role that isn't necessarily your best spot, but it's by nature of
Injuries and he's had to fill in somewhere.
yeah, yeah,
I get that too. I just think that now he's got like that grade. Like I hope or that contract. I hope they stop doing that. Like they would never switch Bakhtiari around anywhere else
no,
if they had
no,
something wrong. But obviously left tackle is way more important than right tackle or left guard.
yeah,
But even before then, like I don't think there's ever a world where you just take a player of David Bakhtiari's caliber out of his natural position. And I think they need to stop doing that with Elton Jenkins in order to uplift his season better. And I just think he needs to get a little better at pass blocking. So, Who should we go to next? Who should we go to next? Let's talk positively. I'm gonna go Zach Tom because the other four we need to talk about aren't gonna get good grades for me. What'd you give Zach Tom?
B plus.
That is almost what I gave. I give him a B. Um, a lot of his grade for me is just availability. As a rookie pick, played in 9 games, had almost 500 snaps, played 300 snaps at left tackle, 100 snaps um, at left guard, almost another 100 at right tackle, and then 14 at right guard. Like the only position he didn't play in the line this year was center, which I think if memory serves me right, Tommy from the Discord, spoiler alert, joined the Discord, um, said that Zach Tom played center in college, which
Yes.
is weird enough that that's just the only spot he didn't fill in this year. When he could have certainly filled in, given their center play this year. So we'll get there, we'll get there, we'll get there. But yeah, it just availability is the best ability for me. Had good grades as well. Looks like he only had, if I can find it, only had 1 sack allowed, 12 pressures and 4 hits, so not as good. Um, again with like the whole Elton Jenkins thing that we talked about, just the sacks and the hurries and the hits. But he's a rookie. I think the context a lot like matters a lot in this. And when you're shuffling around from 4 of the 5 different spots in the line, you're probably gonna end up letting a sack to through or two if you are playing 4 positions on a line and not getting consistent run at any of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything else to add, or you want to keep going?
No, I think you covered it there. If there's a utility lineman role, I don't know if that's what I think he's
Is
like.
Zach
It's
Tom the Jace Peterson of Packers offensive lineman?
oh,
Listen to Cruising for a Bruising. Next up is center Josh Myers, the ire of a lot of Packers fandom this year. Jordan, what did you give Josh Myers?
I gave him a C.
I gave him a C plus.
Mm-mm.
He was, as Zach Cruz put it, no, Andy Herman. I think it was Andy
I think
Herman.
honestly both. I think I know what you're gonna
Probably
say.
both.
Consistency.
Consistently
Yeah.
inconsistent. And I think they need to address center in the offseason because I think there needs to be a battle of sorts for that position going forward. I wouldn't be opposed to seeing what they can do with Zach Tom there, but part of me also thinks that if they don't keep Bakhtiari, you just plug Zach Tom out at left tackle. There's a whole lot of places Zach Tom could fit. And but I'd be wanting to see what he could do at center to see if he could take over Josh Myers' spot because given the role of AJ Dillon in this offense for at least the next year, AJ Dillon's like bread and butter is A gap rushing, right? You need to have a solid center to open that gap up. It's simple as that. And if it's not going to be, then you're really just limiting your offense in that facet if you can't get the gap open. And I think that's really the
It's not even
problem.
just that. Like, think of how many times like Quinton Williams just dismantled the
Yeah,
Packers line, and
yeah.
that's up the gut. I
Three sacks
I'm
for Josh Myers. 3 sacks, 2 hits, 8 hurries, and 13 pressures.
even there's probably the Eagles game. Like, there are a lot of interior linemen for other teams that really just like,
That ate up. Yeah,
yep, ate up. There was no resistance, nothing.
yeah. It was really tough going for the interior lineman.
Maybe CU was too high.
Maybe I gave him
I
a
don't
C
know.
plus. Like C plus might be too high. I I'm taking it back. I'm looking over
What was it?
your math again. I'm giving him a C
PFF, where did he have him? Or where did they have him?
for
He
a grade or for what?
for his pass, or
His
just I guess.
his general grade was a 62.6 as like an offensive grade, but his run blocking was down in the 50s, and his pass blocking was up in the 70s. So his pass blocking good, his run blocking was bad. But
Interesting.
I think you're 100% right in that interior linemen feasted this year in on Rodgers and getting sacks. Part of that too, not all of the sacks are the lineman's fault. That's some of Rodgers not throwing the ball away, and we'll get to Rodgers. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that it just really is consistently inconsistent is the best way to put it. And outside of left tackle, I think center might be the most important position to have a solid blocker because you need it for QB sneaks, you need it for halfback dives, all the like the goal 1 yard 1 yard line goal to goal rushes. You need a good interior lineman to
Yeah.
push to so they can go up the gut. And when your interior lineman is John Runyon, Josh Myers, and I believe and Royce Newman, like it's tough sledding is what I'll say. Tough sledding. Um,
You said that like a high school principal, like just reprimanding like a child. That was my favorite way to see you say something like that. Anyway,
yeah. Also, I should have put that Elton Jenkins is in the middle too. It's across the middle. It's
yeah.
Elton Jenkins, Josh Meyer, and John Running. But when he couldn't play, Royce Newman was at guard for when um, Elton Jenkins was at right tackle when Josh Nyman couldn't play. So there's a whole mix of offensive linemen this year, and not a whole lot of them are good on the inside. Except for EJ sometimes when he was there.
Sounds very deep. Not a lot of them are good on the inside.
Well, John Runyon Jr. What'd you give him?
I'm immediately gonna regret giving this grade. I think Myers kind of masks maybe some of his inconsistencies. I give him a B minus.
I gave him a C. Gave him a C. The he had very similar stats to Josh Myers in pressures and sacks and everything else. They both had 3 sacks allowed and a similar amount of pressures. So it really was just a similar season.
B minus is going down to a C plus.
I am totally okay with that. I think it's worth noting too that he's also a third year guy. Like the Packers need to make a decision on him too. Not a decision, but I think he'll be another player that they look at to possibly move on from if they find out better options, either in free agency or the draft or etc.
Yeah.
So definitely worth noting going forward. Yash Nyman.
B.
B. I gave him a C and was thinking about moving it down. I want to hear your explanation for a
Give me
B.
some numbers. Give me some numbers.
5 sacks, 28 pressures, and 22 hurries. So of those 28 pressures, 5 were sacks, 1 hit, and then 22 hurries. I think the number 28 is big.
Did I say B? I meant C.
I I looked at it. I think I'm dropping from C to C minus. Honestly, like
That's rough.
he had a fine pass blocking grade. I think he's second on the or maybe third. Nope, hold
If
on.
I could,
Fourth in
def-
grade for PFF.
sorry.
But I think
Oh,
that
okay.
grade fourth in pass blocking grade for the Packers on PFF. I think that grade and the amount of pressures he allowed are very in contrast of one another. And the actual stats, the counting stats, mean a whole lot more to me than his pass blocking grade.
Um, if I could contextualize
Go
my
ahead.
initial grade, I felt like when he was good, he was really good in games, and when he was bad, he would just get torn to shreds.
He got he got torched so many times.
I want to say, was it the Rams game where he just got like it was Leonard Floyd, someone else? They just like wreaked havoc on him, and I
He allowed 2 sacks that game.
then it was the Rams game.
Yep. He had 4 total pressures, 2 sacks, 2 hurries.
I'm still very bullish on him in, in his future. I don't know if it's necessarily in Green Bay because I believe he's a free agent this year.
I think
Is he
he
like
is.
a
He's
is he
drafted in 2019.
unrestricted or is he an exclusive whatever title that is?
Go ahead and vamp a little bit. I'll tell you in a second.
Um, I think that's why I was a little bit. I felt like I don't know. I maybe I'm again. It's hard. Probably should have said this before we started grading linemen, but it is very to you want to give it more to PFF of like, okay, they're seeing things that I'm not necessarily
Right,
seeing,
exactly.
kind of thing.
For the off season, though, I have a bookshelf, all YouTube watchers, right over there, and it's Take Your Eye Off the Ball. That was a book recommended to me by the Discord for the Revolt Football. And I'm hoping to read it this off season and for the betterment of my football watching capabilities.
Who's it
Because
by?
I don't know why you asked me that right now.
Right.
I will look
Well,
it
I
up.
think I'll vamp. I'll vamp.
Um, I got it. It is by Pat Kerwin. I got the
Pat
2.0,
Kerwin.
the 2.0 version.
Oh,
So, um, he is Josh Diamond is an unrestricted free agent. They might bring him back on some small deal. Um, honestly, if he's their starting right tackle, it's not too bad. But I would bet they probably don't bring him back and just run with Zach Tom. Like if
yeah.
that's what we're really talking about, that's probably where they go because they don't really need to bring him back if Zach Tom's is going to be a plug and place um, offensive lineman. Obviously, you can't expect him to Zach Tom to play every offensive line position because you can't make him play center and right tackle.
Yeah.
But I think the point being is that they have. I'm not gonna say a golden goose. That's just not the word, not the phrase I'm trying to go for. They have like a nice shiny toy in Zach Tom that they can play with however they want to best fit the offensive line. Does that make sense?
He's like silly putty.
Yes, that is a great way to put it. That is a great way to put it. Um,
Flex Seal. No free ads.
no free ads. But yeah, Josh Myers is under contract for the next 2 years, so they don't really need to make a decision there. But I think they ought to start looking elsewhere. Yeah, Josh Diamond, I changed mine from a C to C minus. You changed yours from a B to a C. Um, Royce Newman. I gave him a C minus.
D.
You gave him a D.
Yes.
I think that's appropriate.
Benched.
Benched.
It's not even a walk-in situation where you're off the team. It's like
He
you're
just
on the
wasn't.
team.
He weren't good.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think he might. I think we might have seen him play
his last downs.
regular season snaps.
Yeah, he drafted last year. Just not a good year for him. Obviously, he didn't have a good last year either. I think it's just a matter of the development isn't there, and you can't keep sinking snaps into it when into a player that just needs to be better at the position they play, which is guard. So I think they have Elton Jenkins back at guard. You put Tom there, keep Nyman or whatever they tried to do with how they formate the line next year. I don't think he's gonna be a part of it. Last but not least, Jordan. Last position. Cherry on top. Aaron Charles Rogers. What'd you give him? I'll let you go first.
Let's go stats first. Let's build the suspense.
Stats first, and we'll build the suspense. All right.
Um, How in depth do you want these stats to be?
As much suspense as you want to build, Jordan.
3,695 passing yards. 64. Where's the completion percentage? 64.6% completion percentage. Sorry. 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I do not have that in context to the rest of his career, but I believe that is the most interceptions he's thrown
I will tell
quite
you.
some time. If
Since
not,
2020, 2010.
thanks.
Yep. More, t-
I
more
gave
more interceptions this year than in 2020 and 2021 combined. This is MVP years.
I gave Aaron Charles Rogers a C.
I gave him a C plus. I don't know why I was inclined to bump that up to a C plus, but I was. I think of the biggest thing for me. I guess unless you want to explain yours first. Okay. So I think my mindset in giving him a C plus over like a C or a C minus was that we really didn't think losing Devonte Adams would matter as much as it did. We think it would have mattered a lot. I think it mattered a whole lot more in the context of his season than we thought it would have. Like I think the impact was greater than we even anticipated, even though the anticipation was great. Um, but just looking at like raw stats and his first full season since I gotta find. I don't know why this one doesn't tell me games, but um, yeah, his first full season since basically the year that he started, that he had less than 4,000 yards passing. He had as you mentioned, essentially 3,700 yards. Um, Before that, all 4,000 until you get to 2017 when he was hurt. Only had 1,600 that season. In 2013, when he was hurt, he had 2,700 that season. And then going back to 2007, like when he played like 3 games, I think, 218 yards. Other than that, he's had a 4,000 or 5,000 yard season passing every year.
And you're adding another game.
And you're adding another game. Combined with the most interceptions he's thrown in a decade plus, and half sometimes the numbers of like in his 2020 year, he had 53 touchdowns. Like that's really great Aaron Rodgers, right? That's such an insane number to throw. 26 this year. Like it's tough. 32 sacks. Just it was hard. It was hard for him this year. And I think he's falling off and declining as a quarterback given his age. But the deep ball wasn't there, as we talked about. Some of the accuracy issues weren't there. The decision making was waning when he should have been throwing away the ball, but instead taking some of those sacks that ramped up that number into the 30s. All of that combined, it doesn't really matter when he's on, which is why we saw some flashes of greatness again this year. Like sometimes like that Bowie Tunyon throw in one of the touchdowns this year
Mm.
was really good. It was really good. Vintage Rogers esque. And I don't think he's a B level player. Again, C plus. It's just this grade has a low probability of getting better throughout the like in the next in the coming years if he decides to play. And I couldn't give him just a C because giving him just a C would mean that he's literally average when he did have like the counting stats and some of the completion percentage was up towards like the higher end of quarterbacks this year. And going with two rookie wide receivers and having really only two, three receivers that he was comfortable with out of like the seven he passes to, being Cobb, Lazard, and Bobby Tunyon, while still having to figure out how to weave in Watson, Dobbs, and Sammy Watkins. So I think it was really hard for him this year because of his age and his thumb injury for the most part throughout the middle of the season. Doesn't excuse the lack of accuracy down the field and decision making that really plagued his season.
I think that is a very appropriate, commendable way to say it. Um, Devontae, for as much as it masked a lot of things for this Packers offense, it certainly masked a lot of things. It kept Aaron younger.
Yeah, I think the
That much is
classic
clear.
the classic conversation of do wide receivers make quarterbacks or quarterbacks make wide receivers? For almost all of Aaron Rodgers' career, it was the quarterback making the receiver, right?
Yeah,
Like Greg Jennings never as good as he was in Green Bay as he was everywhere else. It was James Jones. It was Jordy
Jordy
Nelson.
Nelson.
Like it's just wasn't the case. Then you see Devontae Adams go from his era in Green Bay to making Rodgers an MVP level quarterback those last 2 years, then still being a top five wide receiver with Derek Carr
Yeah,
in
he had
Las
the third
Vegas.
most passing yards or receiving yards, I should say.
He was damn good this year.
Yeah. So it's a symbiosis thing
Yeah.
where it's not A or B, it's AB.
Hmm.
Antonio Brown.
Oh no. It was,
Sorry. Um, that all being said, no 300-yard passing game.
no, no passing game.
Your point of flashes of brilliance
Only one
was,
game of 3 touchdowns or more.
and that's Christian Watson, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Um, your point of flashes of brilliance really was only contained to drives. It wasn't really sustained.
Hmm.
Again, not just not just limited to Aaron Rodgers. That was sort of the case of the Packers offense, but yeah,
Yeah.
it was highly disappointing. It's hard to see. I mean, at one point, by nature of where the Packers season was, we were talking about benching him. You know what I mean?
Right.
So being the reigning MVP, even at 38 years old now, 39, right? Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't. You still have to assess him in what you saw,
Right.
and there's again there's so many contextual factors here for why he struggled the way he did and why he fell off
Right.
as sharp as he did. I know the thumb injury played into to some degree, but
Hmm.
was, as we agreed on, it was overblown. Um, honestly, the other thing too, I was thinking harsher. I was going into it before, like kind of like really thinking it over, maybe
Yeah.
going C minus, but I'll give him a C.
Yeah. I think that's fair. Alrighty. That does it for grades. I don't mean to spring this on you, Jordan, but I forgot that the Super Bowl is this weekend
Oh,
and NFL honors.
wait, the big game?
Big game. Um, do you want to do? I suppose I shouldn't give you a choice because we are going to do it.
Let's do it.
Oh my God, there's so many. Um, the
Are we doing
NFL.
every
No,
award?
we're just doing the big ones.
Okay.
The NFL honors candidates and who you think will win.
Okay, good. Because I would not have known
I'm
who the candidates
trying
were.
to find um like a list of the candidates. Yeah, this will work. So most valuable player. I'll give you the option of the five that they gave.
Five they gave. Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, or Justin Jefferson.
Jalen Hurts.
I'm also going to go with Jalen Hurts. I think he wins it. I think Patrick Mahomes might deserve more. I think that's one of those cases where they just give it to the best.
Available.
Yeah, like the best player on the best team. Like I think they had similar records. They might have had the same record, but he also missed a couple games because of injury. Jalen Hurts did.
Eagles were 14-3.
I think so. I think the
I think that,
Chiefs have been 13-4.
yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Let me look.
I think.
Let me look. Doesn't want to tell me. Because why would it, right? 14-3 as well. So end up with the same record. Yeah, but then I think since
They should
Jalen
be in the
Hurts
Super Bowl.
since Jalen Hurts missed those 2 games, I think they give it to him because they probably would have went 15-1 or something with him there. Offensive player of the year is Justin Jefferson, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes. I would throw Tyreek Hill in this conversation as well.
Justin Jefferson. Who's the second one?
Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes. I think it's Justin Jefferson.
I think it's Justin. I would go Justin Jefferson. I think whoever doesn't win
Wins
MVP gets, yeah.
I think that they really should just make like MVP a quarterback award because it
Yeah.
is always a quarterback. But I really think Justin Jefferson deserves to win this particular award. He was fantastic this season. Like he should have broken the record for most passing yards in a season.
Yeah.
So I think that he deserves it. Um, Defensive Player of the Year. They have Nick Bosa, Mike Parsons, or Chris Jones. I think I just go Nick Bosa. He had a great year.
Parsons.
The Cowboy, huh?
Yeehaw.
Offensive Rookie of the Year. Kenneth Walker the third, Garrett Wilson, and they put Brock Purdy, but I'm subbing Brock Purdy for Christian
Get
Watson.
out of here.
That's what they put. I'm
Can't even throw a ball in the championship game.
they're
Kenneth Walker.
I'm being a homer. I'm going Christian Watson.
Wait, is he in it?
Not in this thing.
Oh,
I don't know who the actual like nominations are. I'm just going off the NFL website. Rookie of the Year: Sauce Gardner, Aiden Hutchinson, or Tyreek Woolen. I would also
ooh.
throw in, or no, never mind. I'd not throw in. I'd pick Aiden Hutchinson.
I
Um,
would have gone.
I think Sauce is the right pick. I think I just go Aiden Hutchinson because he was so fucking good.
Yeah. God.
Um,
Oh my God, it's gonna be hard to watch him ruin the Packers for the next 10, 50 years.
that's right. Comeback Player of the Year: Geno, Saquon, or Christian McCaffrey. I'm going Geno.
Yeah, it's hard not to go Geno.
It really is.
Other, I mean, injury related. It is. It was impressive that Barkley did.
Had that year
Or
after his injury, yeah.
yeah,
I just
but
think
no
no
one
one,
thought Geno.
no one thought
Geno.
that Geno would lead them to playoffs. Not
Yeah,
ever. Coach of the Year: Brian Daboll, Doug Peterson, or Kyle Shanahan. I think you have to go Daboll.
they both.
First year as a Giants head coach to make the playoffs with the same roster they did last year, essentially.
That is true. Yeah, Dable. Dable.
Okay. Um, Score predictions and who wins the big game, Jordan.
Mm. Playing where? Where's it again? Phoenix.
Phoenix
Phoenix, side of the immortal Patriots Giants Super Bowl.
and the Aaron Rodgers pass to Jeff Janis 2 times. Remember that playoff game?
Yeah,
And
I
then
went to a bar and
have your heart
immediately.
ripped out of
I
you.
saw that play coming from a mile.
The shovel pass to Larry Fitzgerald for 87 yards.
We'll save it for later. We'll save it for later. I was at the height of my Mike McCarthy pessimism. Anyway,
Well, yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna go Eagles
Score.
31, Chiefs 24.
I think it's going to be higher scoring than that. I'm going Chiefs.
I think both defenses are very good.
I agree. I just think the offenses are so good that it's gonna be hard to hold them to do anything, right? Like I think that while the defenses are good, the offenses are just that much better.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going Chiefs 38, Eagles 34. What are you laughing about?
It's got this full like scalp.
Full head of hair, as I thought.
Sorry, what was your score? I was very
Chiefs
mesmerized.
38, Eagles 34.
I am very excited for the Super Bowl.
I am excited for it. I think it's gonna be really fun.
I think this might be the best Super Bowl since I don't even know.
Since you can't say it's
What
the best
was
Super Bowl ever. I won't. I
no.
won't allow that.
I think I'm looking forward to this as much as the first Chiefs Super Bowl with Mahomes against
San
49ers.
Francisco. Yeah. The
Even though they
last
just
like
demolished the
five
Packers that
years
year.
was Rams Cincy. I was excited for that one.
That was a good one.
Tampa Cincy or Tampa Kansas City. That one was a stinker. Can
Then Chiefs 49ers.
Yep. And then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Patriots Rams Super Bowl. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah.
13-3.
Yep.
Oh my God, I forgot how bad that game sucked.
I wanted the Rams so bad that year.
And then and then
Eagles. Philly
Eagles
special.
Eagles Patriots. Yep, was the last one, the last 5 years. So the Patriots went to the Super Bowl 3 years in a row. Jesus.
Hmm.
Alrighty, that does it for us, folks. Couple of housekeeping items as we wrap up here. As always, as we've been saying the past few episodes, come over and join us on Repod. Um, just a great way to talk about pretty much all things GSPN, all things Wisconsin sports. I don't know if you experienced it today, Jordan. I know I experienced it today, and so did Ty and a bunch of other people on Twitter. Twitter just broke. Just wasn't loading tweets on for like an hour. And so Repod is going to be like hopefully the next place that you guys all join us to talk about that, to have some discourse, talk about these trade deadline happenings, these Packer happenings. So um, come join us over there. They have their own player in there. When Spotify went down, I think that was last week or 2 weeks ago. Repod still have to go. So
I've been starting to listen to my pods of Repod, and I could not recommend it more too.
I think I might start for the sole purpose that they give you stats on minutes listened, and I want to
Mhm.
bump that number so high.
Yeah,
Just for
don't want to
that.
be the guy that has zero, zero,
Exactly.
zero.
I just want that number to be so high and obnoxiously like, wow, I listen to a lot of podcasts. A couple recaps of some episodes. Cruising for a bruising drop today. They're talking about how Ben Sheets is going to be honored. Um, the state of the Brewers TV rights, considering that Bally is likely to go under, as well as um, the Brewers having the eighth best farm system in the MLB. When in six wise, or no, Euro step wise, I'm trying to think who posted when. You guys posted
As we
on
recorded
Monday.
right
Nope,
now.
no. When in six
Right.
posted on
Sorry.
Monday,
Yes.
talking about the Kyrie Irving trade, how Drew
Mhm.
Holiday is an all-star, and how Giannis Antetokounmpo is the captain of that all-star team. And then just before this pod recorded, you, Rohan, and Ty talked about the trade deadline as up to date as it quite literally could have been.
Yes. We actually talked about the Wolves, Lakers, Jazz deal before it happened because it kept leaking out, and then it happened.
Perf.
So, yeah, we talked Bucks targets, Jay Crowder, Bojan Bogdanovic, talked a little bit about the Knicks and how squeaky boots they are. They just squeak everywhere. Yeah. Let's hope it doesn't age like milk.
Let's hope. And then make time for this, the Junk Drawer Pod, Pop Culture Pod that Adam and Andrew run. They released an episode today as well, talking about The Quiet Girl, being one of the year's best films and one of the first ever Irish language Oscar nominees. And they talked about the episode before that was released last week. Talked about Steven Spielberg's The Fablemans. So go check all those out. Go check out GSPN. Go check out gspn.info for all the links pertaining to your sub podcast network, and for the link to get into the Discord. Come join us. We're doing playbacks every. Oh, we should mention that too. If you want to check out some Brewers, the 2018 run, Adam and Andrew are educating themselves on Brewers history and are going through the 2018 Brewers playoff run, and it's a lot of fun. There's diehard Brewers fans in there with us talking about the game, and just reminiscing of a time when the Brewers were good. Jordan is
What are
perpetually living in 2018 during this time, and come join and watch with us. Join the Discord. The links are always in there, as well as tweeted out from the cruising channel and Adam when the day they're happening, as well as like a half hour before they're happening and when they end up happening. So go follow us all on the Twitter machine, anywhere you can find us, and just come join our wonderful community. Anything else, Jordan?
no
Perfect.
join Repod, Discord,
That's right.
Twitter if it's working,
All of it.
Friendster.
That's right. Alrighty, folks. We are going dark until next week. Only 7 days of darkness, going surpassing Aaron Rodgers' four. So until then, thank you for listening, and Jordan, thank you.